As a diehard Tyler fan, I genuinely would not have been as upset with Byler not being in the game if they did an 11 better. Alright? Because Mike, when he first kissed Jane, she had just gotten out of the lab. Girl, she didn't even know what McDonald's was yet. And you expect her to know anything about romance? She was probably just like, why is this guy attacking me with his face? Like, what? And then whenever we see them together, they're either fighting or making out. Like, one-on-one conversations. Jane doesn't even know what she's interested in. She knows nothing about herself. They don't talk about common interests, and Jane clearly doesn't care about anything Mike is interested in. And then all of the issues of Mike lying to Jane, and then Mike not being able to tell Jane that he loved her. He was, and like, both of them are so obviously insecure. They're constantly lying to each other. Jane lying to Mike about her friends in California and everything. They're constantly lying to each other. They're clearly insecure about their relationship. Mike wasn't even able to tell Jane that he loved her when she was about to die. The thing is, if they had resolved those issues, they had made Mike wait for Jane to figure herself out before getting in a relationship with her, because if he truly loved her, he would have done that instead of using her as his beard without her even knowing or allowing that. If he truly loved her, he would have waited for her to be ready for a relationship, to learn who she is, and to kind of catch up in like maturity almost, because her mental age was not the same. Like, she didn't even know how to talk properly. So if he'd waited for that, well, that would have been better. If they had even shown their unhealthy relationship and then shown them working through those problems and having a stronger, healthier relationship, I wouldn't have had as much of an issue. And then also, if they had given Will closure for his feelings for Mike, and then given him a love interest that was more involved with the plot and not just some like last minute thought at the end of the show, who was just some made up person from Mike's imagination, I genuinely wouldn't have been as upset if they had done it better. But they didn't, and and I still would have been sad because I'm the queer that got baited. But I probably wouldn't have had as much of an issue if they had resolved it better, and they just didn't. And then not only that, but then they screw over the only other queer couple in the show, and and they make Jane kill herself at the end. Oh yeah, you're struggling to escape an abusive situation. Kill yourself. That's a terrible, terrible message to send to your audience, especially to people who look to that show for comfort. That's terrible. And then the way they make one of the few women of color in the show, and one of the only two women of color in the show, seem evil. They portray her as evil and a terrible influence on Jane. There's so many things that they did wrong. And don't get me wrong, there were some parts of the season that I liked. I liked that Robin got Vicky, even if they broke up at the end, which sucked. I don't think they should have. I liked that, I liked that Will was able to get powers, because it was like him kind of taking back his autonomy from his abuser. And I think that was really cool. But I don't like how they used the literal, not even just a metaphor, the way Vecna forced that tentacle down Will's throat was plain sexual assault. And they never showed him truly overcoming that. They literally just used it as shock value. I wouldn't have had an issue with them showing that scene if they had shown him processing that trauma and overcoming it. But they didn't do that. They just use it as a shock value, and that sucked. And that's so disrespectful to anyone who's gone through sexual assault. Then, and honestly, the way they did it in season 2 with the Mind Flayer taking control over Will was such a better, like, portrayal of him almost, like, losing himself to this, like, traumatic experience, you know? And they could have left it at that, but they didn't. And that just kind of sucks. That was weird. And they're, like, in the way they always had, like, Jane, like, not really understanding things and like almost getting undressed in front of people like just seemed a little weird. I don't know, there was just a lot of things that seemed a little odd. And it's like I at first didn't think it was a big issue because I'm like, oh, they're gonna wrap this up. They're gonna show them like overcoming these issues. They're gonna tie up all these loose ends. But they just didn't. And then so now it's like you left all these loose ends open and now it's just making you guys look like really gross and weird and like homophobic and racist and misogynistic and creepy to kids and all these things. And it's like because the elements they used of Will and the weird tentacle thing and Jane and her like kind of getting undressed and all in front of people was it wouldn't have been as much of an issue. Like the elements themselves isn't the issue. It's the way they used it and the way they didn't treat it with the respect it deserved, but rather showed it as shock value or something to just like laugh at, depending on the situation. And it's like that that doesn't do it well, and that's kind of disrespectful to the real victims out there who have gone through that stuff. Because you're treating their experiences as some jump scare that you can just throw into horror. And that's not what it is. Like, you gotta take those experiences and understand the depth and complexity of the different experiences and how it can affect people differently. But they didn't. I don't know, this completely diverged from my original topic, but yeah, that's just I have a lot of thoughts about the finale and I know it's been months, but like it just still irks me. And the fact that so many people, like the general audience, just seem to be okay with it really irritates me because I'm like, do you not see what you're just accepting here? You're accepting so many terrible decisions that you could have done better. You like, and I so wish that conformity gate was real because there are so many things pointing towards it being real to the point where I genuinely believed it. But now I don't, obviously, because it's like it's been months. What are they gonna do? And then with the Tales from '85, it's like, what did they do to my son? Because Mike is my child. I like gave birth to him, not actually. They just completely changed his character. They turned him into a jerk. And it's like I feel like I know him better than the people who created him. And it's so irritating. But it's like I wish that conformity gate was real because that would have been so clever. And if I ever write a TV show, I want to do something like that, except I won't make people think I queer baited them, but I'll still kind of make them feel unsatisfied and then be like, boop, surprise, that's not actually the real ending. But like, conformity gate is good inspiration for fan fiction, I will say that. You know it's a problem when the fan fiction is better than the media itself. But anyway, like, imagine leaving so many loose ends, just doing such a terrible job with your finale that you make people think that it's not the real ending and point out genuine hints that like all actually connect and hold up just for nothing to happen. Like at that point I would have just like be like, hey, everyone get back here now. We have to do this. Or I know it'll make us look bad. Like I keep having things I think of and then I'm like forgetting them. But yeah, that's all for now. This was just me yapping to my laptop camera because I don't have my phone right now, and it's like midnight. I just wanted to get some thoughts out. That's me ranting. So yeah, this is I'm just gonna make videos like this, just like whenever I feel like it, just yapping about some random topic, and then uploading them. That's what my content's gonna be. Yeah, I don't know. Just like I hate that like Bylers and Malevins are always fighting because Malevin would be cute if they weren't toxic, okay? But I personally think that Dustin was just better for Jane anyway. And I hate that Dustin, his love interest, like, barely even got mentioned ever. I don't know. Like, whoa. I just feel like they did such a bad job. And I wish I could live in the alternate universe where they did a better job. Like, I remember when when season 4 is out, when we were waiting for season 5, and I was like, I'm so jealous of my future self because he gets to see Byler kiss. And then now I'm like, damn, I'm so jealous of my past self because of all the hope he had. Like, ugh, times change, crazy. But yeah, that's all I have. That's my yap for today. See you in my next video. I don't know when that'll be. I'll probably have a completely different hair color or hairstyle. Yeah, bye.